Welcome to Bite Size, Insights from New York State PTA, the podcast where the heart of PTA leadership gets a mic.
From the hilarious meeting moments to the heartwarming wins. And yes, even a few oopsies. We're bringing you the unfiltered truth of PTA life.
Whether you're brand new to your role or a seasoned pro, this is your space, your bite-sized dose of insights, inspiration, and connection.
This is Bite Size, Insights from New York State PTA.
Because every story counts, even the ones that could have been an email.
Today we're diving into one of the most powerful dynamics in education, when school boards, BOCES, and PTAs actually work together. When that happens, magic. Students thrive, communication flows, and communities strengthen. We're calling this episode Bridging the Gap because we're tackling the real-life collaboration between what happens behind the scenes and the challenges that come with it. And we're so excited to have our incredible guest joining us today, Catherine Romano, who brings firsthand experience leading through the layers of boards, BOCES, and PTAs with insight, humor, and a whole lot of wisdom. Joining me are our amazing co-hosts, not that one, Kathleen, Robin, and Sonia. All right, let's get into it because this conversation might just change how you see teamwork and education. So we have our special guest on today. Catherine, I'd love for you to introduce yourself to our listeners.
So I'm Catherine Romano, or Kathy Romano. I go by both names. I've been a PTA member since my daughter entered kindergarten in 1995 or 6. Ran from the floor in my kindergarten building, completely unknown in my community, and one being the president. Within a week, somebody complained about what the prior board was doing. And a week after that, the region was in my living room. I was in their living room, actually. They commanded me to come and say hello. And then a week after that, the state was hearing complaints about what the unit had done. I was talking with Robin and Sonia about the last episode, reading your manual. I lived by the PTA resource manual. So I was a PTA president, PTA council president, ran for the school board when my daughter was in 8th grade. So that gives you a perspective of time. Served on my local school board in Islip for 12 years, 9 of the 12 as board president. Lived through being on contingency, which I can talk about later, being called back from vacation because the community wanted to talk to the board. I was on the regional board for school boards. I sit now on the state board of School Boards Association. And in the last 2 years of my term as a school board member in Islip, I was elected to the Eastern Suffolk BOCES board. I went from working with 7 board members to 15 board members.
When you hear bridging the gap, what comes to mind first, Kat? I'll let you go first, Kathy.
I think that the gap is misunderstanding and lack of clear communication.
Yeah.
I think we often other people because we don't understand the world that they work in and the limits that they have.
Okay. What do you think, Sonia?
In thinking about the topics of the different groups, I think we tend to put ourselves in silos. Like PTA, we put ourselves on a PTA side, not realizing that there's other organizations like the school board or BOCES, or even from the PTA standpoint, at the unit level, we put ourselves in a silo. We don't realize that there's region or state or national that we have the opportunity to collaborate with and learn from. So it's breaking down the silos and building those bridges to those other organizations that can help us.
So ladies, what's one moment when collaboration between these groups really worked and one time you feel like it didn't? I'll start with you, Robin.
Going back to your previous question of what do I think when I hear bridging the gap, my answer is trust. When we're working on a project and we all have that same common goal to get there at the same place, this goal is the same for everyone. And especially when you're working on behalf of the children, it's a little easier. We know the goal is to get them this as far as we're advocating, as whatever it is that we want to do. So if the goal is the same, you just got to get all the players in the game, and everyone just has to leave their kind of egos aside and leave themselves aside and just come in to really want to work for the kids, because that's how I feel.
And I can tell you that when the structure works, it works really well. It relies on the honesty, as you said, Robin, and the trust of the people who are involved. So I'll give you an example, a concrete example of one or two ways where I've seen it work. I told you that I was a board president. The year I got elected board president, our district was on contingency. You voted in May, the community turned down the budget. They voted people that I knew in, but they voted down the budget. And the board at the time, who had the majority, elected to go on what's called contingency. Their budget was a 0 to 0 from year to year, which meant that they had to make cuts. And what they cut was extracurricular activities, sports. I mean, when you lose your football team, that's like the end of the world. So board members get sworn in the first week of July. I was sworn in July 1st, went on my vacation with my family out to Greenport. Now, when I say my family, I say my extended family, my parents, my cousins, my siblings and their families, right? So this was one of those, nobody's going back to work. Nobody's getting in touch with the rest of the world. And I get a panic call. Kathy, you have to come home. The community wants to have a meeting with the board July 4th week. We want to have a meeting because we can't lose our athletic program, especially for our high school seniors.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no Zoom. That's right. That was 2005. So my family, my extended family allowed me to drive with my sister to Islip. She was my protection.
The muscle.
And I went into a room where there had to be 150, 200 people. And they were like, Kathy, we know you, relationship. We know you. We know you don't want this to happen. How do we fix this? How can we make this happen? And I sat in a hard seat because it was a lot of money. I mean, we cut millions of dollars, and they wanted sports back. You know, the Booster Club was like, we're going to raise money for sports. And I said, that's all well and good, but we need to do all the kids. So I can't advise this board to vote that we would do that without a plan for everybody else. So I commit to you, we will work on a plan and we'll come back in August and have sort of an idea of what it costs to do each of the programs and how we can do it. And what we did was the Booster Club raised money for athletics, and then we staggered things. Every team had sort of a season in the high school. We did not restore clubs in the elementary school, but we did restore some of the music programs. And we shifted teachers who were teaching in the elementary school up to the high school to sort of preserve their job while we were trying to juggle this whole thing. It was hard. Everybody hurt, but because everybody hurt, it was easier for us the next few years to dig out of the hole. Because when you go on contingency or when you have a 0 to 0 budget from year to year, everybody feels the pain. The teachers, the support staff, the kids, and so on. And so it was easier back then, there was no tax cap, to raise money in the district the next 3 years to close the gap that we had created. We were one of the only districts that pierced the tax cap the very first year it was in place, because we knew our community had lived with a whole lot of hurt. And if we stayed at the level we were, we would never get back to really where we had started. So we pierced the tax cap, and we pierced it, and we had like an 85% approval rate, which is a lot. The second time we pierced the tax cap was a year where some debt fell off and the state was still giving you money for what we call building aid, and that causes a gap in the funding. We were one of the first districts that discovered that, and that was the year I lost my seat. And so when I ran for the board, and I told the superintendent, because I know my community, I said, you're going to get me or you're going to get the budget. And I said, and I'm going to work to make sure you get the budget. So the only person who was shocked when the results of the election came was the superintendent.
Wow.
Because I knew the community.
Mm-hmm.
I knew what they had lived through for 9, 10, 11 years.
And also they trusted you, because just like you said in the beginning, everybody was hurting. However, you work together and you pull together. And your work ethics and what you have done in the past show that, well, look, we want her because we know that if she says it's going to hurt, we know it's going to hurt. But if she says it's only going to hurt for a little while, we know it's only going to hurt for a little while. So they trusted you. And
Yeah.
just like you said, and that's the thing, again, in collaborations, you got to know the players. And you got to know what's going on. And it's not saying that you have to be lead dog, but even if you're one of the newbies, you got to let those that know everything, let them guide you. And then when you're able, because I'm not one to jump in. I lay in the cut because I want to make sure that what I'm signing on to do and what my vision to do. And again, and this is on behalf of children, that it's not a Robin thing. It's really a kid. It's aligned, and it's with it's all about the kids. It's not Robin.
One of the best words I know in the work that I do is we and us.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
If that doesn't come out of my mouth, I'm in trouble.
Exactly.
So, Catherine, can you do me a favor? I want to connect the dots, especially for folks that are new listening to this. Like, we're pretty seasoned, so we understand tax cap, we understand all that jargon, right? But there's a lot of folks that really don't know how it affects them and how it's happening to them, whether they know it or not. Could you break down, and just connect boards, BOCES, and PTAs and how that all kind of goes together? Does that make sense?
Sure. So as a PTA, your focus is usually or generally your building. I worry about the kids in my building and the activities in my building and the needs of my building. When I first started, I was geeky. I used to go to the board meetings. So watch out for the person who goes to the board meetings because they'll turn into somebody like me.
Talking to the right group.
And one of the things that I learned is that boards of education are regular people who represent and advise the superintendent. They don't represent the neighborhood that they live in, the neighbors that come to their house, the organizations that they belong to. Those feed them into a perspective. But the reason you have multiple board members is that we discuss from a non-professional level what the district is asking to do. We advise the superintendent on what's brewing in the neighborhood and what ways their policies need to be finessed, rewritten, re-examined, or come to fruition. And we have no power individually.
Let me just ask a question. You said you advise the superintendent. This is as a unit PTA,
No,
or as
a board
council
member, I
PTA?
think.
As a school board member.
Oh, as a school board member. Okay, I got
As
you.
a school board member.
I got you.
As a PTA, you usually have a council that meets with the superintendent. Superintendent might come to your school board to your PTA meeting, or the principal might come to your PTA meeting. That sort of similar relationship works with board members as well. Although board members are sworn in to be responsible for the fiscal operation of the district. They're supposed to know when things go wrong. There's a district that I know recently that has auditors coming in to try and figure out what went wrong in their finances. So board members are key to making sure that they know what the auditors are all doing. Board members adopt policy, but in general, there is nothing that a board will do that is not recommended by the superintendent.
Okay.
And the next question is why? Because the superintendent is the educational professional. Even if you're a teacher in a school district, that's not the board where you live, you are not the professional at the table. The superintendent and the superintendent staff is.
I think this is the clearest I've ever heard anyone explain this. Really, I didn't understand any of this as much as I thought I did.
So let me ask you, Kathy, you have a school board that's elected by your town or your city?
By the members of our community.
Right. So we
My
don't.
school district borderlines.
Mhm.
Yes, you have wards or areas where your board members are
Ours are
assigned or chosen.
Ours are appointed by the mayor. I think we're one of maybe two districts.
Yonkers,
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yonkers is the other one.
Yeah. We're
Yeah.
appointed by the mayor. But from what you're saying, and when you're describing the mechanisms of a school board, it aligns identically. So whether you're elected by the community or you're appointed by the mayor, it is still the same. And I'm like Mary, I appreciate this conversation because we don't know, sometimes you're just
We think we know.
and you don't know. Right. This is good to know.
So here's the third leg of that, which is Mary asked about BOCES. Boards of Cooperative Educational Services have a number of districts that are part of that consortium or that BOCES. So on the island, we have Nassau BOCES, which has 56 component districts. We have Western Suffolk BOCES, which has 22 component districts. And we have Eastern Suffolk BOCES that has 51 component districts. Board members elected to those boards run to be elected by the component districts. So I am not elected by the folks in Dix Hills, Wheatley Heights. I'm elected by the 51 component districts that are in Eastern Suffolk BOCES. In general, we do not have more than one representative from a local school district. So like two people from my community wouldn't necessarily serve on our board. We have a dual leadership. We have a district superintendent, and the district superintendent is employed in part by us and in part by the state education department, because all schools are chartered by the state education department. You cannot be a public school or a private school without having New York State Education Department oversee you in some fashion or another. The arm of the state education department that is in Eastern Suffolk is our district superintendent. And the district superintendents go to the regents meetings all the time. We also have what's called a chief operating officer in Eastern Suffolk BOCES. Because we're so big, we serve 2,000 students, 27 sites, special ed, regular ed. We manage a lot of money. We have a $500 million budget.
What?
$500 million with a B.
God, okay. I just wanted to make sure I heard it.
Yeah, you heard it right. So we do things like we have major contracts for copy machines and computers and curriculum materials and professional development for teaching staff and so on and so forth. We bring in speakers, like when I look at my board packet on an average is about 12 to 1,500 pages. And I get that on a Friday, and I have to be ready to vote on it on Wednesday.
And this
So
is
it's
on
a
the
lot of
BOCES
stuff.
board. This is on
That's
the
my
BOCES.
BOCES
Wow.
board.
I will tell you this. My daughter is a part of the BOCES program. She's in the nursing program. This thing is run so well. I mean, I was so impressed by what she was able to get from this program that I don't think she would have necessarily gotten anywhere else. And I love our high school. I love our district. I think our district runs really well as well. But wow, like it just exposed her to a whole different set of opportunities that I didn't even know would exist for her at the high school level. But with that being said, I felt like I said in the beginning of my statement, I didn't know. So what do you think the biggest gaps in communication are? Like, how can we bridge that, to make sure that people understand that opportunity and not make it an other? Because that's what it felt like for a while, the BOCES kids. And then there's this misunderstanding where, if you're in BOCES, it means that it's a special education program. Or,
Right.
just there's a lot of misconceptions as to what this program is.
So, ironically, that's one thing that our BOCES is really trying to work on. And most of the other BOCES are trying to have this conversation as well. When the idea from the state education department came down about regionalization and everybody's feathers got ruffled and knickers in a knot, we realized that the perception and communication about BOCES can be competitive. I literally was at what we call the Islip Town School Boards meeting, which was in the town of Islip, there are probably eight or nine school districts. And one of them was showing off their cosmetology program. And when they asked me to speak, I said, I got to tell you that we at BOCES, we don't have enough space to do all of the programming in career and technical education that we would want. And we want to build more sophisticated programming because when AI comes in and all the lower level jobs are not available, we have to have students ready for the next iteration of what it is to be in the work world. So we're not competing with local school districts. We'll help local school districts build a program that works for their kids, but there are some programs that just require so much. A welding plant, a real auto body repair plant requires tremendous amount of space. The paint, automotive, like body work, the paint cabinet that you put a whole car in is enormous. It's bigger than the car, right? And it has to have all kinds of safety equipment and evacuation things because you're working with paint, right? You can't just build that on the back of your local high school for 5 kids who want to do auto body. But unless you have somebody that will sponsor that, but it's not economically feasible. So that's why you would use a BOCES program. We will always have things like carpentry, electrician, plumbing, small marine motor. I mean, you want a kid to make money? Have them get into small marine motor because boats we live on an island, boats are everywhere. The thing is that our perspective is we want to create professionals who have received certificates and can get into the work world to then do the next level of education in the area that they are exploring. So in the area of nursing, you can come out with an LPN in 18 months as an adult or in 2 years as a regular student. And then you have to go to college to get your RN, but you can still do that while you're working. That's harder for a school district to pull off.
On that example that you gave with the nursing program, and going back to what Mary said, it's clearly not a quote unquote special education or, type of program. So how do we talk about or have that conversation about that if you're in a BOCES program, or change the narrative that it's not a special program, it's more like an elite program. Because if you're participating in a BOCES program, you're exposed to so many wonderful things. So
yeah, and at our school, you have to have specific grades too to get into certain programs.
So every school district is different about how they handle their BOCES connections. But in Eastern Suffolk BOCES, we used to run a BOCES PTA dinner. And for years, I mean, when I was a baby PTA person, we would go to this thing. And it was a dinner that was cooked and served by the students in our BOCES program. And then we had what we called the sort of fashion show of trades, where the students would talk about what trade they were in and literally walk through like a fashion show. And a scholarship was awarded by the PTA. And the PTA members would be invited to preview 1 or 2 of our BOCES programs.
That's nice.
Now, we also offer that for our regular career ed and our special career ed because we do career education for special education students too. I have a building that runs a florist and that does a mini cafe, that does a store, and that does hospital or nursing home sort of training in a building with special needs kids so that when they get their vested and their post K-12 education, that they have the ability to do part-time work or supervised work.
Kathy, can I tell you what we used to do with that dinner? So majority of the time, the dinner was later on in the year, right? So we would send, as a president, I would send my board a special invitation and tell them, because of all their hard work and everything they've done, we're inviting them to this night out. Guys, you don't understand. I don't know if you've ever been to this. Have you guys all been to one? when we went the first time, we did our nails because there were the nail techs. They showed us the folks that were dealing with little small animals. I think the first year we went, it was an aviator that won the scholarship from PTA. It was so nice. And then it happened to be our school that was doing the fashion show. It was so nice. We were the loudest bunch in there. Like, it's a really nice night.
That's good.
So, Robin, sometimes a BOCES program is conducted by BOCES in a school district building because we don't have enough space. And when we want to build space or buy space, all of our component districts have to agree to take on the debt for that. You can only imagine how hard that is. But if a district has a building or classroom areas that are emptying because their enrollment is declining, that's a way that BOCES can lease the space from them. The PTA dinner, going back, Mary, to your point, the PTA dinner in Eastern Suffolk BOCES used to have like 800 people at it.
Great.
Oh my God.
It was great.
The challenge is that over the years, and certainly post-COVID, there were fewer and fewer PTA people joining the dinner. There were more and more BOCES staff and less
But I think people didn't promote it the right way, because when we invited as an invitation, as a thank you, it was a different way that people viewed it. And I thought it only made sense because this was a lot of fun. When I went, it was fun. The chefs, they cooked for us. Like, the food was amazing.
You get note cards. You get to take home the centerpiece.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's like
you get desserts that you would have to go to a restaurant for. I mean, the way these kids cook is incredible.
And the pride in their work. It's so nice to see.
Yeah.
That's the first time that I saw BOCES as something other than a special ed program, because I was under that misconception as well. I didn't realize.
And that's the thing that our BOCES in particular is focused on right now. We just started a communications and advocacy committee so that our 51 component districts have a regional advocacy arm among school boards, but also that we start to communicate better about what it is that we do, because there are even board members who think that either BOCES is just, the special ed program and the special ed costs and they look at BOCES as costly, or we can only send a limited number of kids to whatever BOCES program we have. So guidance may be counseling only the select few to access a BOCES program. As I'm talking to you, you're hearing a large network of information. That's our next agenda, is how to do that. We're starting to create small videos from our leadership, program videos. And in New York City, a documentary photographer did a project with New York City students about their public schools, to change the real narrative about what it is to be in a public school. And that documentary producer came out to Eastern Suffolk BOCES and showed us their documentary. And we then had some of our special academic program students who are in middle school or high school, the ones who were photographed, who told their stories were high school. These are kids that have school anxiety and can't go to their regular schools. They're kids that have been through rehab or pregnant and their school district doesn't want them in the building. They're kids that have such emotional, mental health needs that they need counseling multiple times a day, and the local school district can't do that. So these kids are really, I call them unique. They're special in a unique way, and they're incredible to watch. But I'll be honest with you, some of them have ankle monitors.
Wow.
Some of them have been through foster care and have no bed. Some of them are homeless.
Are they in the same buildings as all the programs that go on?
No.
Okay.
No. What happens is in the academic centers, there are academic centers for different kinds of students. And they also we try to keep them in closer locations to like 10 or 12 districts so that, kids aren't on the bus for an hour to get to a program. But we also will build programs for districts. So, for example, in Mattatuck-Cutchogue, which is out in the North Fork, there was that school district, Mattatuck-Cutchogue, had space. The Mattatuck-Cutchogue is more of a farm, lots of area sort of community. They wanted to build a carpentry program because there's a lot of building trades out east on the East End that it takes forever to get staff, carpenters, electricians, so on. They came to us. We hired a professional carpenter. And that's the thing. We will train the carpenter to become a teacher, or we will have a teacher working with the carpenter so that kids are getting a professional who is also an educator. And
Wow.
we build them, we create them.
So they're
And so we
dual.
help them.
They're dual.
Yes, yes.
So what do you do when the communication kind of breaks down? How do you reset the tone?
Well, part of it is that we ourselves have to have a real hard conversation, a real look in the mirror kind of conversation and say, where are we breaking down? Now, where I am, we went through a large upheaval of leadership, like a lot of people changed. And when we did that, we sort of said we really have to re-examine what the culture or what the beliefs were. And we're in transition now. So moving into this communication piece is really key. The other thing is that board members themselves, me, I connect with other board members in local districts. I send newsletters. We have gatherings where we kind of work the room sort of thing at our convention. I'm more busy meeting people, answering questions, connecting with folks. Because when you look at what I represent on Suffolk County, I go from the edge of Farmingdale to Orient and Montauk. We're talking about a lot of space.
So how do you think that leaders like us, or at every level really, parent, teacher, board member, how can we create the space for an honest and productive conversation around all these things?
So I think, first of all, that conversation happens outside of a regular board meeting. I think there are a lot of expectations about what a regular school board meeting is. A regular school board meeting is not a meeting of the community. It is a meeting in front of the community. The board members have specific work that they have to accomplish at a board meeting. And it's a privilege when a board opens the open commentary portion of a meeting. They're really seeking input. They're not really seeking to be yelled at because it's really uncomfortable.
Mm.
It's and as you're sitting there, you can't give answers to people right away because, as you all know, as PTA leaders, the minute somebody asks you for an answer with their finger in your face pointing at you, you know you're in trouble if you open your mouth.
But they
Right.
have rules just like us. Like we follow
Mhm.
Robert's rules, right? Like
Yeah.
they can't just,
Yeah.
they can table discussions and stuff like
I know
that.
our board meetings.
Yeah.
It's just a sounding board. And hopefully it's a place where community, families, parents, teachers, students could honestly say whatever their piece is, whatever that is, and feel that it is being heard. But our board of trustees, they just sit and they listen. And hopefully someone is writing something down like, oh yeah, they had a point. But I also believe that, and again, this is going back to collaborations. This is how you come together. And I know we're all very passionate and we all come from a place, and, if it's something about, like the main thing right now is the cell phones. So if I'm a helicopter mom and my son
Proud
could say,
lawnmower mom here.
my son and daughter say, I really want to let you know this. I'm going to go to that school board and I'm going to and again, that's my passion. And again, if I come there and I'm going, this is the reason why, blah, 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 we have to I always tell everyone, because I get angry too, I get passionate too, but just kind of fall back before you get to that mic, take a breather, and remember what it is that you want to share. You don't just want to share that, little Bobby, little Jane couldn't reach you. You want to share, hey, I understand this is a law. I understand we have to abide by the law, just like all the laws within the state. But help me as a parent feel more comfortable with this law. This is new. And I believe that if you come that way, then I'm hoping that those listening ears will say, they get it. that we're bound by the law, but let's talk, or let's have community meetings where the parents can gain that trust from the district, from the police, from the city, knowing that we all have the best interest of their kids, your little Bobby, your little Jane, and we're coming together. And I think that's that way in which the collaboration has to come, that when we're coming in that room, no matter what the issue is, no matter who the players are, we all have to come at a place where, and just like Kathy, you said, it doesn't happen at the board meeting, because we all know the meetings happen after the board meeting. It's the meeting after the meeting that really gets things done. So, and then in that place, and you're inviting other people to join you, say, look, this is the issue. How do we best make this work? Or how can we get this here in our district? Or how can we make this happen in our city? And again, it's bringing players together, but speaking on behalf of the goal of being a successful outcome for the student. So,
Yes.
and that's how we, as our PTA units, and that's how we have to go with our principals, no matter who the players are. You have to, we all become passionate. And the principal, again, they're working 9 hours. They don't want to hear, they don't want to hear that nonsense. And again, I, as a person, I don't want to hear it either. I want to hear, what can we do? This is the issue. What can we do to make it better? And how can we get that happen?
Kathy, in that vein, I'm sure you've heard a million stories. I know a lot of us have our own personal stories. What is your all-time favorite story to tell, and how PTA came together and presented their argument, whatever that was, to the board effectively so that they could affect change?
So when I was a baby PTA mom, in our community, the people on the PTA council who had middle school and high school students were very concerned about drugs in our community. Now remember, we're talking about 1995, 96, okay? And we went to something called a Daytop DPEP. Now, you can imagine having a 6-year-old and hearing about, how kids were partying and getting drugs and ketamine. I mean, it wasn't fentanyl then. It was ketamine. It was barely even cocaine. And sitting and having this wave over me, I'm like, oh my God, what are we doing? Well, the PTAs then had a meeting after the meeting, and I mean an official meeting, not a parking lot meeting, and said, how can we get the district and how can we collaborate with the district? And so we had at the PTA council invited the superintendent and really had a conversation about what we went to. And then they went again to a DPEP. And then the superintendent encouraged the superintendent's
Just
staff.
for clarity, what is a DPEP?
It's a drug education program that's run for parents and community.
Okay.
It would be like if you've had Stephen Dewey talk to you, or Dr. Stephen Dewey, who is a researcher on addiction, anybody who does program like that, they usually do an outreach to make community awareness happen. And that's what that program is, community awareness, where drug addicts were actually telling you, and they were teenagers, telling you how they got involved in their drugs, what it took to get them out of it, multiple iterations of rehab, so on and so forth. So we then brought that to the school leadership. The school leadership then experienced it. Then they made a connection. And every year we would have 1 or 2 of these conversations. It wasn't the same organization that came. Sometimes it was different organizations. Sometimes it was the police and counselors or researchers. As I said, Dr. Stephen Dewey came. That was a collaboration that we had. That started our Red Ribbon Week. Our Red Ribbon Week was not just about wearing crazy socks today and funny hair tomorrow and so on. It really was about educating the community about what the issues were.
Do you think we can still use these tools now? Like, is it translatable now as we are in the times that we're in?
I think it is translatable. I think that's the work of PTA, and I'm glad you asked, because I told you I started out and I had the PTA police coming to talk to me.
They called you in.
And what I learned was, that PTA was more than fundraising or running activities in my school. I learned that day one. So that changed how I operated in PTA. I started to do things that would either partner us for learning, get our teachers, like have a night that's not meet the teacher night, but is really meet the learning night. Get us to be in the classroom supporting our parents as reading partners, or now it's people as reading partners or something. I can't
Pick a
remember
reading
what the
partner.
acronym is.
Pick
Pick a reading partner. Yeah. That those programs were intentional. We worked with the teachers to discuss what we should be collaborating with to do and aiming for.
It's so meaningful that you say, and I just want to call it out again, that we are more than just fundraisers. I think people forget that we are advocacy at heart, and there's a lot that we can do in the numbers that we have.
So I never called it advocacy. That's the other thing.
Okay.
Like in our PTA circle, we call it advocacy because the A word is very scary.
Okay.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
It's a very scary word.
They get scared when they hear that. They really do.
I can
They
see
think
that.
we're coming at them, but you're right. Yep.
Right. You're asking me to talk to a legislator? Are you out of your mind?
Mm-hmm.
But like Mary said, can you tell me a story about? Robin, you talked about going to the school board meeting. A really good person at the microphone at a school board meeting, number one, lays out the issue or the concern. Number two, brings data with them. Not my kid or 5 parents or every parent in the, that's a lot of horse hooey. Give me solid numbers. Third thing is to offer a solution or to offer options for a solution. So when you do that, you give your board members or you give your administration or you give your legislator something to work with. I'll give you a really good local context of a school district issue with legislators because I've been in Washington. I've actually been in the White House. Most recently, this past year in Albany, in the Capitol in Albany, one of the districts that I represent had a large Child Victims Act lawsuit that had a lot of money attached to it, that a perpetrator in the school district had victimized children sexually in the district a long time ago. So here's the other thing. Board members who sit in your seats now pay for the sins and decisions of the people who were before them. They also celebrate the successes that somebody else built. And you have that in PTA, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, we do.
I was going to say that's the world.
That's the I. The I.
I live in a city where the mayor did a ribbon cutting on a building or on the waterfront for something he wasn't even mayor of. This was like 5 mayors before him, but it came to fruition, and it was like, here I am. Let me cut the ribbon. But that's how that look. That's the way it works. That's the way the world works. We got to work, and I'm going to let you get back, but we got to work because sometimes it's a marathon and it's not a sprint. And we have to look at what the goal is to figure out how we're going to get there. But we all know that that's just the way the world is. Back to you, Kathy.
So I'll give you this story. So this Child Victims Act decision, the district has some insurance companies that are in place now, that were in place, that cover the district. It left still a large chunk of money, like $20 million, that insurance companies that were in place at the time are no longer in existence. So they have to fill that $20 million gap. One of the people on the board is in insurance, and they figured out that there's an insurance fund for defunct insurance companies. Insurance companies pay like an insurance plan that, if we go defunct, this money covers a potential of lawsuits after we went out of business. Schools cannot access that fund. So when we were in Albany, the person from this school district started to talk to the other board members and the advocacy team that New York State School Boards has. And as teams, we went to legislators and told the story. It's not that the district is not taking responsibility. It is that in taking responsibility, they have their hands tied to access a plan that they paid into that's no longer available to them. And so legislation is being written now and pushed forward based on their story. They're connecting with legislators who were not in their region, but who also had schools who had the same experience.
Guys, you heard it here first
Mm-hmm.
on this podcast.
The thing is,
Because it impacts their ability to
Exactly.
educate the children that are in their seats now.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's really good. And I love that because it's just a matter of having that conversation. And so here it is. We're going up to Albany and someone from, say, well, I don't want to pick we'll just say
North Country. Say the North Country.
North
right,
Country.
Someone in the North Country may have had that direct issue. But when we go up to Albany and the person from North Country has that issue, the person who's representing the South and the East and the West is saying, hey, I heard that. We have that same problem. It's not just North. It's everywhere. And it's like, yeah, well, let's come together to figure out what we can do to remedy this situation.
Agreed.
Right.
And just like you said, Kathy, you have to come not just with the yelling, but come with a plan and come with how you're gonna make it, bring it to fruition. Because the end goal was to make it so that they could then fund what needed to be funded on that particular situation. That particular situation.
And
However,
I think it works as well in opportunities. When one PTA shares with another, not, my PTA is all great, but when people actually share what works, what was problematic and how we change, that is golden. So I always encourage people to meet other PTAs.
Girl.
You don't have to do everything the same, but you do have to have a conversation. Now you're going to your convention and you're talking about resolutions. Sometimes in that dialogue and resolutions, you hear great things that you never thought of.
Yep.
Right?
Inspiration.
But you also have to be careful that people are working from facts, not passion.
Right.
But what you just said about how you got to listen, that's what Bite Size is all about.
Right.
Because we all represent different parts of PTA. We represent different areas in New York. And then we're just here and we have you as a guest to just kind of share your experience. And so people will listen to you and say, you know what, I'm going through that in my area.
Yep.
And we're being when we come together in this platform, we're very transparent and we try to be as real and helpful as we can. And that's why I'm not trying to plug this, but I'm really being factual.
Plug it, girl. Plug it.
Because that's what this is all about. We sit here and we come from our different places and we say, you know what, let me tell you what's happening here. And let me tell you what's going on here and how we made it work or what, and it's not just about, and when you said that we're just not about fundraising and
parties. Fifth grade moving up ceremony.
Yeah.
That was my thesis in school. Because I was like, they think that PTA is just mom sitting down and say, would you like to buy a donut? Would you like to get coffee? No, we're bigger than that. We're fiercer than that. We work harder than that. And in order to do those things that needs to be done, i.e. go up to Albany, i.e. go down to Washington, D.C., i.e. tap international, it's because we have that passion to make things better for our kids.
Right.
And whatever way we can do it, we use those tools to do it.
The other thing that I think is golden about PTA is that you bring someone else along. I never went, I was an odd region board member because when we went to a large event, I didn't sit with my region. I met somebody else. I went around the room. I would bring people, somebody was new, come on with me, and literally take their hand. I think, Mary, when you had your first orientation, right? We met in the hallway.
I still remember.
And I said, come with me, come on. And you were like, well, I don't know. And no, you just dive right in there because everybody likes to sort of sit back and assess the world and so on and so forth. I'm a little unusual. I was in PTA not for my own political gain.
Well, you know what? This is what, and I'm not going to talk about any other team. I can only talk about this team. And this governance team, the leadership team, we have said, and we have had different experiences that we want to be the team that says, hey, how you doing? Come, just saying
Bring them
hello,
in.
meeting that person with a smile. Because especially if this is your first time coming to convention or your first time going to SLC or your first time going to a region meeting or whatever, you just want to feel comfortable. And just like you said, sometimes you're the odd duck out and everyone's not gravitating towards you. You just want to say, let me just sit back, and you want to feel comfortable. But when you're noticed and someone says, hey, how are you? Where are you from? What's going on in your area? You just, all of a sudden, that reserve that you had up, you just let it down.
Go.
And that's what this leadership team is about. That's what we try to be about, because we want to make sure that our PTA leaders really understand what it is about leadership, because the way we are with them is the way we want them to be with their members, with their parents, and with everybody else. And it's trickle down effect.
Yeah. Guys, I told you, I can talk to Catherine forever. I heard you speak and I was just like, oh my God, she understands, she gets it. But unfortunately we have to kind of like get to we're getting to our rapid fire fun round. All right. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions and it's going to be quick responses. I don't want to stop this. I could talk to you forever, Catherine, really. All right, guys. So this is open to all of us. All right. So we will start with you as our guest, Kathy. Describe the perfect bridge between boards, BOCES, and PTAs in 3 words.
Listening, learning, thriving.
Kathy?
Collaborating, understanding, open-minded.
Sonia, what do you think?
You guys are picking all the good words.
I know.
I mean, I definitely like the listening. I'll steal that one. Open-mindedness, I think, and sharing.
Okay. Robin, what about you?
I'm just going to say it. Partnership, trust, and support.
All right, guys. What's your favorite PTA moment that reminded you your teamwork really matters? We had air concern when they were doing construction. We brought it to our team. We talked about it. At the time, I wasn't council. I was just a unit president. I told my council president what the issue was, told the other units, and they said, whatever you need. It doesn't affect our building, but we'll help you. And we all went into that board meeting. It wasn't a regular board meeting. It was a specifically scheduled board meeting about this particular issue together, lock in hand. And I think that's the first time the Board of Education, in my experience, took us very seriously and created steps to make us parents feel comfortable about the air quality in the building during construction for our little ones.
That's good.
How about you, Kathy?
I think I told my story, which was the contingency and coming back and working together on building extracurricular with no money.
Yeah.
I mean, I laid out a lot of money in fundraisers that year. and
you got some backup popcorn over there?
Thereafter, the raffle baskets up the wazoo.
How about you, Kathleen?
I guess the year that my unit almost closed. And, just coming together, working with region and state to make sure that it didn't.
What about you, Sonia?
I'm thinking about an event that we did. I was leading an elementary unit and we wanted to do an outdoor movie night. And the town had hosted one previously, but it was during the summertime and it didn't really have a lot of attendance. We wanted to do it in the fall because it gets darker earlier in the fall. We contracted with the town to use their space. So we paid them a fee to use it, but it was so well received that the following year we actually did it. The town wanted to partner with us, with our PTA, and I have elementary, each building has a separate unit. So we actually collaborated with all of the other elementary PTAs, and now it's been going on, I think, for like 8 or 9 years.
Wow,
and
that's great.
It's like hundreds of people come to this event.
That's good.
And it's all the elementary units work together and they promote it, and it's like a back to school kind of feeling where we all come together. Everybody comes together and does an outdoor movie night that the town collaborates with. And that's been really fun to see them work together on a collaborative project like that, to do a fun family night that encompasses the entire community. Yeah. It was really awesome.
That's great.
How about you, Robin?
I was just an observer. and a director. So I think I might have shared where this one unit leader had come to a meeting and they were discussing the issue of the no air conditioning in their building. And I had directed them on what they needed to do. And it was very satisfying seeing that PTA leader do what she needed to do. And then me as the council, I also partnered and I would direct the board on where they needed to go to support this actual building and this unit. And it was really good because she advocated and she did everything. And well, she along with her team. And they did. It was nice to see that now they're fully air conditioned because, you know, in Yonkers, a lot of our buildings are very old. They're over 100 years old. So there was a lot of mechanisms that came into play to make it happen. But it was good seeing her advocate to the principal, advocate to the assistant superintendent, and then the superintendent to make it happen. And then I also worked with her in working with the Board of Education. So it was really good. It was nice.
So guys, I have something that I hope you guys will have fun with. Kathy, I had told people that we were going to be chatting with you today, and some people had some questions. So I picked one, a situation. And I think it would be helpful to tell people some avenues that they can take to solve the issue. Does that sound good to you guys?
Yeah.
Sure.
We know that, you know, this is situational. It depends on what your building is like. It depends on what your district is like, but an overview of the best way to go forward. So here's the question, guys. This parent has been informed that the child's school are no longer allowing rugs in the classroom. She's not sure how long that's been instituted. What is your recommendation for approaching the Board of Ed or their superintendent with alternatives or suggestions? They currently have gym interlocking mats.
Okay, so they have foam mats in the classroom, and the person wants rugs.
I think they used to have rugs. I know my kids had rugs. I had rugs when I was little. But, I guess they don't do that anymore. I don't know.
So I think first thing, well, always the pecking order. Start in your building, work from your building to the central office, buildings and grounds, because they might have policies, et cetera, around that. Then work your way to the superintendent, you know, like ask to have a conversation. And all along the way, you might get answers, so you don't need to go further and further, but ask the questions. Why did we remove the rugs and replace them with the mats? What is the hygienics of it? Because I'm assuming that it's either hygienics or it's like comfy feel versus feeling industrial sort of thing on the parent's end. But as a parent, you sort of, you go through the chain of command. Sometimes a building will have like a monthly meeting with the principal, the support staff, the teachers, so on and so forth. I mean, by me, we used to call that the SOE committee. It's a Title I committee, but that Title I committee really has the opportunity to have that sort of collaborative conversation, and just ask to speak to folks.
Okay.
If you want further support, you start to talk to the teachers union and the teachers. You may find out that the teachers had requested they get rid of the rug. You know, like there's so many layers to this, but it's ask a question first.
That's good. That's a good.
Why is this the way it is?
I like that answer. Do you guys have anything you wanted to add, Kathleen, Sonia?
I remember when I was a teacher assistant, I was just thinking about this today. It's so weird. The entire classroom was carpeted. I think that's gross.
Yeah,
Isn't
that is
nasty?
weird. Yeah, because they walk.
So if a kid gets sick or it's a rainy day, you know, like I think that's disgusting. And then they ended up like ripping that all up. But, you know, like I have a rug in my classroom. It's in the back. Like we use it for read alouds or like when the kids are doing work, but it's one part of my classroom. And it's a choice of the teacher. Like some teachers like the rugs. I also have flexible seating in my classroom. I kind of think that people are getting away from rugs, but if you have a rug, you don't have a rug. I don't think it means that the classroom is any nicer or not as nice or the teacher is any better or whatever because of a rug.
Right. What about you guys, Sonia, Robin?
No, I was just going to say what Kathy said is gold. Ask the question.
What do you think, Sonia?
I was just, same thing. Asking questions and conversation with the teacher or, as Kathy mentioned, building principal going up the chain of command like that is, you don't ever want to jump the chain of command.
No.
There's reasons why
exactly.
there's layers in place, and
Right.
you're much.
I mean,
more,
like
you're much
I
more
wouldn't
effective.
start with,
Right.
you know, the superintendent. My child's classroom doesn't have a
What is
freaking
happening?
rug.
It's my
They'd be
rug.
like, what?
Right.
Even
Right.
even if they went to my principal and they're like, well, there's no rug in the room, she'd be like, what? Did you?
Right. Right.
Right.
I don't think she really cares.
Right. So I think also ask the question and listen. Really listen, you know.
What were you saying, Kathy?
And listen to learn, not to ask the next question. The other thing that I would caution you is this is a not to bring this up to your friend, the board member,
Yes.
at the cocktail party, at the soccer field, at the grocery store. Because among us as board members, we always caution our new members, do not buy ice cream in the store. And when you go to the store, please go with a hat and sunglasses and a coat.
Incognito.
Because, you know, I will tell you, and this is reality, my family came to the conclusion that taking 2 cars to any school event was important.
Wow.
Because
You needed a fast
their
getaway?
mom/wife, the mayor of Islip, would never leave an event when they wanted to go. And they wanted to go always earlier than
I even feel that as like a PTA, like, you know, being like, I was council president, I wear my sunglasses in the supermarket. And when I went to get new sunglasses, the lady's like, how about these ones? These have brown lenses. I'm like, no,
Nope,
black. They have to be all black, blacked out. I have to wear black sunglasses. I need to wear them in the supermarket so I don't have to talk to anyone.
Yeah, I think that's the key, is that we are all volunteers.
Yes.
You have to have
We
some
all have
barriers.
lives, we have families, we have people that we know and love. And somehow when anybody gets a title, whether it's PTA president, I mean, I had somebody, when I was PTA president, call me at 5 o'clock in the morning to see whether school was open or closed.
Oh my God.
Thank God now you have the systems that automatically let you know. But that was the perception. Your role as a PTA mom was, you knew when school was going to close because the superintendent called you.
Direct line.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I must not have done it right, because no one, or I just shop in places that no one wants to come to.
I was
What
in a
time?
listen. I was in
Yeah,
a
at all the
store.
times.
I had just become PTA president. I was voluntold into the position, and someone stopped me and Stop and Shop and was like, "Hey, you! I heard you were the new PTA president," and I felt so exposed. Like, it was weird. I was like, "How do you know? Who told you? I don't even know your name." But
You want to run down the aisle with your cart. Look, let me get away.
But it's boundaries, right? We just want to create boundaries. We want to make sure that they know that we're here for them. But, you know, I'm a human being too. And, you know, I love my family just as much as you do.
Right.
Catherine, I can't thank you enough for sharing your perspective with us. It's just so evident to me that you're like a ball of knowledge. And I'm glad that people got a little taste of the conversations we get to have with you. You know, and I love the advice that you're leaving with our listeners. I hope you had fun on our podcast today.
Fabulous.
All right. So until the next time, keep the conversation going. And remember, when we work together, every child wins. Thank you, guys.